Okay, so today I'm going to let you guys know what headphones I personally would buy at various different price points below $1,000. I could theoretically go higher, but I figured I'd cap it off at $1,000 just because that's, well, realistically, I probably wouldn't buy something for myself more expensive than that just because I can't afford that stuff. But I've been doing this for quite a while now, and at this point I have listened to, measured, and evaluated hundreds of headphones, and I have a pretty clear sense of the ones that I would personally choose for myself at various different price points and the reasons why. So in today's video, that's what we're gonna do. Just before going any further, I want to let you guys know about headphones.com. Headphones.com makes all of these videos possible. So if you like what we're doing here, if you find any of this stuff interesting or useful and you want to support us, consider subscribing to the channel here, but also remember to check out headphones.com the next time you're in the market for a new pair of headphones or DAC or amp or speakers or whatever else. Headphones.com is also where we publish all of our written reviews. I just posted one there the other day. And it's also got a ton of educational material there if you guys are new to any of this stuff and you want to learn about, what is diffuse field and why does it matter? So if you want to learn more about any of this stuff, check out headphones.com. I'll leave a link in the description. Okay, so the context for this video is that I've done a number of ranking lists or tier lists in the past. The asterisk for all of that stuff is that that's mostly focused towards sound quality, and that's not the only thing to consider when you are actually buying headphones. And certainly for myself, I have a number of different requirements that I think would disqualify a number of those headphones or qualify other ones, right? And also, I'm gonna let you guys know the other headphones in those price points that I would personally consider, because there are various good reasons to choose them as well over the ones that I actually end up choosing. So with all that caveat, preamble stuff out of the way, let's launch right in and talk about the sub $150 price category. Actually, below $100, I would just stick with IEMs. Something like the Truthier Hexa would probably suit me just fine. But if we're talking anything under $150, I'm definitely going to go with the FIO FT1. There really isn't that much else to consider around this price point other than perhaps an HE400 SC. You could EQ that headphone. It has like a peak in the treble that you could EQ out, and that's usually on sale or it can be found fairly inexpensively. But I think I would go for a FIO FT1 because that also would satisfy my requirement for a closed back headphone. I'm the kind of guy who likes to have at least one open back and one closed back, maybe a set of IEMs, maybe a noise canceling headphone. I'm a headphoney boy, what can I say? Can see a case for closed backs at other price points, but for me, I think it's more that there are open backs that I think are better, at least for my purposes, at those other price points. Going up to the $200 to $300 price segment, this is a little bit tricky because there's a lot of good options in that range. You have headphones like the Sennheiser HD6XX from Massdrop. You have the HD550, which is their new one that just came out. You also have the HD600, which is one of my favorites. I believe it can be found at $300. And then from Hi-Fi Man, there's the Sundara, around $300 commonly, I believe. And then you can also nowadays get the Edition XS, also from Hi-Fi Man, I feel like I've seen it at like $270, which is a crazy good price for that sort of egg-shaped style of Hi-Fi Man headphone. Also, I'm going to give an honorable mention here to the Odyssey Maxwell. I think there's a really compelling argument for that product, like all the time. It's just that for me, I don't need a wireless gaming headphone or headset, and also I find it a little bit on the heavy side, so I wouldn't personally choose that one. I think there's a good argument for all of these. Certainly the 6XX being the best value among them. But for me, it's actually going to come down to one of two. So I'm a big fan of Sennheiser's recent release, the HD550. It just does a great job of being a solid, neutral, timbre-focused, balanced, tonality-focused sound signature in a headphone. But I'm actually going to lean towards the Sennheiser HD600 right here still. And even though I actually think that the 550 is perhaps a little bit more neutral, I find that the HD600 just does such an exceptional job of providing that really strong sense of natural tone and timbre without sounding dry. It's the kind of thing that you might not appreciate right away because it doesn't have that sort of immediate wow effect that you get from certain other headphones that have more meaningful colorations in various different regions of the frequency response. But that's not to say that it is like perfectly dead on flat neutral. There are a couple of areas where it's giving a little bit of sort of tasteful forwardness, like I mentioned in that sort of lower mid-range band. So it still has some of that without sounding, muddy or lacking clarity, because it has a little bit more treble energy there in comparison to what you get with the HD650 and 6XX. And yeah, the other big thing with the HD600 here is that while it does roll off in the bass, this is one of the easiest headphones to EQ because literally all I need to do is add a bass shelf or some sort of bass boost. I don't need to go messing about with the fine-grained, things in the treble. I mean, you might want to, but for me, I don't feel compelled to do that. So that's a big plus for the HD600. Whereas some of these other options, like maybe the Edition XS, I'd have to get out the scalpel a little bit and start, getting some of the fine-grained stuff a little bit more in line. Let's move on to the next price bracket here, which is basically everything from $300 to $500. I'm picking these arbitrarily. I don't know why. And this is where things are going to get a little bit weird, because I think people have this implicit assumption that the more expensive the product is, the better the sound quality is going to be. And that's not necessarily the case. It's sometimes better. I have to keep saying this like all the time. Sometimes it is better, but sometimes it is worse. And the other side of this, again, if I'm not thinking about this as recommendations for people, if I'm just thinking about the products that I personally would purchase at these price points, it's not just about the sound quality. It's about the other aspects, the convenience factor, comfort, all those sorts of things. So to be perfectly blunt, for myself, the product that I would buy between $300 and $500 is actually the Bose QC Ultra. That would be the noise canceling headphone that I would choose. I say this is my contrarian pick because I think a lot of people think Bose and they think, it doesn't have good sound quality. And most of the time that's true. The Bose QC Ultra is a bit of an exception. It's not ideal for its sound quality. It has a resonance there at around 2 kilohertz that I'm not too fond of. And then it also has this overbearing bass, but when you use the app, you can tone that down in the right spot. So I did a review on that. If you guys are curious to check that out, check out that video. But that is the product that I personally would purchase in that price range. And I know that's unsatisfying because you guys are audiophiles and you care about sound quality more and you want passive recommendations. So if I'm thinking about products where you could make a compelling argument that these are good products to purchase and ones that I would also personally consider, the three headphones that come to mind are the Sony MV1, the Sennheiser HD490 Pro, and the Focal Alex. Those can all be had under $500. And again, the reasons for the MV1 and the HD490 Pro are not necessarily for their sound quality. The sound quality for the MV1 and the 490 Pro is fine, but what makes them special is the build quality and the comfort. They're reasonably lightweight, the MV1 in particular. They're easy to EQ. That's the other advantage there with those, is that what you have to do with EQ is not very difficult, and for some people you might not even need to EQ it at all. The MV1 is one where there's a bit of excess treble there for me at around 6 kilohertz, but that's pretty much all that I would need to fix. And for some people you might not need to fix that at all, and we know this because it actually behaves differently on different heads. And there's actually evidence to suggest that that headphone in particular does not have that 6 kilohertz peak for everybody. It does for me. So that's what I would EQ there. But these are great platforms to get into EQ with, and they're headphones that I would personally be comfortable just owning as my only headphone. That's gonna sound crazy, but that's how I feel about them. They're the kind of headphones where if I imagine myself to not be terminally in this hobby, I would be very comfortable just owning and not bothering to watch any of the rest of these videos. The one outlier there for me is the Focal Alex. I actually just got another one of those in and was listening to it, and yeah, that's one where I wouldn't necessarily consider it for EQ purposes like the others. If you're the kind of person who doesn't want to EQ anything and you're looking for that wow effect in headphones, that sense of dynamism and impact, the Focals give you that, and the Focal Alex is probably the cheapest entry point to that kind of effect. And this is an effect worth experiencing. If you've never heard this kind of thing before, it's worth hearing so you understand what folks are talking about when they're referring to this quality. But it isn't the one that I would choose. I would choose probably a 490 Pro for open back headphones, and like I said, the one that I am actually going to choose in that price range is the based take of the Bose QC Ultra. And now I'm going to move up to a budget of $1,000, and this is where you have a lot of options. First and foremost, there are headphones like the Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth. That used to be like $1,500 or something like that, and now it can be found for under $700. If you're the kind of person who listens to a lot of jazz music and you want a brighter leaning sound signature, something that is sort of hyper-focused on the details for certain tones, that sort of spaciousness effect that it imparts, that is something worth considering. It also has full bass extension. It's not the one that I'm going to choose, though. You also have headphones like the Focal Clear, the original, and the Focal Hedenis, the new open back from Focal that came out, well, I say new, it came out last year. For me, between those two, I prefer the sound of the Clear, but I prefer the comfort of the Hedenis. So between the two, I would probably personally still choose the Hedenis. But my personal choice for under $1,000 is going to be the Moondrop Cosmo. It's the headphone that's right behind me there. That is a planar magnetic headphone that, as of filming this right now, is currently under $1,000. Who knows what the price will be by the time you guys are watching this, but as of filming this, it's under $1,000. The world's going crazy and prices are going to be crazy, so who knows what's going to happen with all this stuff. But I would choose it because that driver in particular is exceptional. So let me actually just get it here. So this is the Moondrop Cosmo, and I think this one kind of fell under the radar a little bit, and it needs more, it deserves more attention. Imagine you took one of those old school Odyssey headphones, like an LCD2F or something like that, and you combined it with the sound signature that you get from like a Focal that has that kind of flaring effect in the mids there at around like 1 to 1.5 kilohertz, something like that. But then you also give it the ability to sound like a hi-fi man with different pads if you want it to. So with high-end planar magnetic headphones, some of them have a more kind of jaggedy response there throughout the treble or various different regions of the frequency response. But others are, you know, a lot more critically damped and a lot smoother there. But there are also downsides to doing that. Like, for example, if there's a break in the seal, the bass will drop out rather than boosting up. This is all super nerdy technical stuff that we don't need to get into, but basically the driver here strikes an exceptional balance for these things. But as soon as you get into pad swapping with this headphone, you'll start to realize where its true potential lies. And I'm going to actually recommend a pad here for you guys to try out if you have this headphone. The one that I like the best so far, I'll put it up on the screen here. It's the replacement pads, I believe, for some of those Fostex headphones. And when you put it on the headphone, you actually position it so that the narrowest point is at the top of the headphone, and this also improves the comfort. Like for this headphone, it's actually one that you do want a little bit more clamp force for because it's just so huge. And here you can see how these pads also improve on the default frequency response for this headphone. So highly recommend those pads, but also there's all kinds of other pads that you could use to affect the sound for this headphone, and it's a great candidate for EQ as well. Okay, so those are my personal choices at these various different price points. Of course, there's tons of other headphones to choose from if you have different preferences, if you have a different use case, if you have different requirements, and it's worth considering a broader spectrum than just the ones that I've indicated here. But I wanted to give you guys a sense of kind of the headphones that I consider seriously for myself. Just one more thing to note, the world is seemingly crazy right now, and I have no idea what's going to happen with prices, you know, a week from now, let alone 6 months from now. So all of this is based on prices as of filming this right now, but that could literally change by the time that you guys are watching this video. So give a little bit of leeway there for the prices of these products. They could be in totally different brackets from how I'm designating them right now. So if you guys have a different list of headphones that you guys would choose at these various different price points, let me know down in the comments below. I always enjoy reading that kind of stuff. I mean, even some of you guys who get a little bit combative about this stuff where you say, how could you exclude this, you know, whatever your favorite headphone is that you bought. It's always useful for me to know that stuff because sometimes there's products that I just haven't considered, or, you know, I haven't been able to get it in for review, and this helps me get a sense of which ones I should check out. Because, you know, if you guys are telling me that you love something, there's a good chance there's something interesting or cool about it that's worth checking out. And that does it for this video. If you guys are interested in any of the measurements of the headphones that I talked about in this video, that will all be up on the headphone community forum at forum.headphones.com. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. And you can chat with me and other like-minded audio people in our Discord, also linked below. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.